There's something I want to tell you today, something you might need to hear right now in your life. And it's this: you don't have to carry the burden of revenge. You don't have to wear yourself out fighting those who have hurt you, because there is an ancient, profound, and mysterious way to free yourself from those invisible chains that bind your soul to bitterness. Today, I'm going to tell you about a ritual that comes from time immemorial, a simple yet powerful ritual that involves something as simple as salt and your own essence, your own urine, to cut the negative ties that others have woven around your life. But before you think this is something strange or unrelated to faith, let me tell you that what I'm going to share with you today is much more than a simple ritual. It's a teaching about forgiveness, about spiritual liberation, about how to let the universe, God, that higher power that sees and knows everything, take care of bringing justice, while you recover your inner peace. Look, I've been doing this for many years, accompanying people like you, people who have lived, who have suffered, who have been betrayed, slandered, and hurt by those they trusted. And one of the things I've seen most often over all these years is how the desire for revenge, that fire that burns inside our chests when someone has hurt us, can consume us completely. I've seen elderly people with a lifetime of experiences behind them who are still emotionally tied to someone who hurt them 20, 30, even 40 years ago. And that bond, that resentment that won't let go, is worse than any physical chain because it steals your joy, robs you of sleep, and prevents you from enjoying the good things in your life. I remember a woman I met years ago, almost 75, her face marked by time, but also by a deep bitterness evident in every gesture, every word. She told me that her sister had stolen the inheritance their mother had left them, that she had falsified documents, that she had lied to the whole family, and that ever since, so, for more than 20 years, she couldn't stop thinking about that injustice. Every day, upon waking, the first thing that came to her mind was her sister's face. And every night, as she went to bed, the last thing that accompanied her was that pain, that suppressed rage. I asked her if her sister knew how much she made her suffer, and she said probably not, that her sister went on with her life as if nothing had happened. And there lay the key to everything. There lay the secret she hadn't seen. Her sister lived peacefully while you were consumed by your own poison. That's what resentment does. That's what suppressed hatred does. It becomes your own executioner. You continue to suffer while the person who hurt you may not even think about you, or worse, may enjoy knowing they have you trapped in that suffering. And then comes the most important question of all, the question that changes everything. How long are you going to allow that person to have power over your peace, over your happiness, over your soul? Because as long as you are bound emotionally, the person who hurt you still has control over you, continues to steal the life you have left to live. Now, I completely understand that when someone has hurt us, especially deeply, unfairly, cruelly, something inside us screams for justice, and that's human. It's completely natural. I'm not going to tell you not to feel that anger. I'm not going to tell you to forgive immediately as if nothing happened, because that would be false. It would be asking you to repress your emotions, and repressed emotions become illnesses of the soul and body. What I will tell you is that there is a way to release that burden without letting injustice go unpunished. There is a way to free that negative energy you carry within without you having to become someone who inflicts harm. And this is where this ritual I want to tell you about comes in, this ancient ritual that combines elements of folk wisdom, spiritual traditions, and many cultures. And it has a deep foundation in universal laws that neither you nor I invented, but which have always been there, silently working in the invisible fabric of reality. This ritual is not about witchcraft. It's not about invoking dark forces, nor about wishing harm on anyone. It's about something much deeper and wiser. It's about returning to the universe what doesn't belong to you. It's about cutting the energetic cords that keep you tied to your aggressor. It's about allowing May divine justice, that all-seeing and unfailing justice, do its work while you reclaim your inner freedom. Salt has been considered a purifying element since ancient times, an element that absorbs negative energies, that cleanses, that protects. In the Bible itself, in the Old Testament, we find references to salt as a symbol of covenant, of purity, of preservation. Jesus himself said to his disciples, "You are the salt of the earth." Why salt? Because salt preserves which is good, because salt gives flavor to what is bland, because salt has properties that go far beyond what we see at first glance. And on the other hand, your urine, although it may sound strange or uncomfortable to talk about, is actually a liquid that carries your purest essence, your biological and energetic information. It is literally a part of you that comes out from within and carries everything inside you, both the good and what you need to release. When you combine these two elements, salt and your own urine, in a ritual performed with the right intention, with your heart focused on liberation and not harm, is creating a symbolic yet incredibly powerful act of detachment, of energetic severing, of returning to the universe that which has been sent to you as negativity, as evil, as a desire to see you fall. You are not attacking anyone. You are not sending evil to anyone. You are simply saying, "This that was sent to me, this that was placed upon me, does not belong to me. I return it to its source. The universe will do justice as it sees fit." Now let me explain how this works from a deeper perspective, because I don't want you to think this is empty superstition or mere magical thinking. In all serious spiritual traditions, from Buddhism to mystical Christianity, from Eastern teachings to the wisdom of indigenous peoples, there is an understanding that everything in the universe is energy, and that this energy responds to intention, to will, to your conscience. When someone wishes you ill, when someone envies you, when someone curses you with their words or thoughts, that person is sending you a form of energy, a vibration that seeks to affect you, weaken you, make you stumble. That energy is not imaginary, it's not a fairy tale, it's as real as radio waves that you can't see, but that transmit information through the air. And if you remain emotionally connected to that person, if you keep thinking about, she's angry, afraid and resentful, and what you're doing is keeping the channel open through which that negative energy can continue to reach you. It's like having an open wound and picking at it every day, scratching it, preventing it from healing. The ritual I'm talking about isn't magic in the sense of something supernatural and outside the laws of reality. It's more about consciously applying spiritual principles to cut that channel, to close that wound, to tell your own soul, it's over, enough, no more. I release myself from this. Let me tell you how this ritual is performed, but before that, I want you to understand something fundamental. The attitude with which you perform it is more important than the ritual itself. If you do it with hatred in your heart, with a desire for revenge, with the intention to harm, then what you are doing is adding more darkness to the darkness, and that will eventually turn against you because the spiritual laws are clear. What you send out returns multiplied. But if you do it from a place of genuine need, of liberation, of profound weariness, of bearing that weight, of a sincere desire to regain your peace, even if the one who hurt you never acknowledges their wrongdoing, then the ritual becomes a sacred act of personal healing. To perform this ritual, you need very little. A small container, perhaps a small glass, a small jar, something that you can seal tightly. You need coarse salt, the most common kind you can find. It doesn't need to be special salt or anything like that. Salt is salt, and all salts have the same purifying properties. And you need a small amount of your own urine, preferably collected in the morning on an empty stomach, which is when it's most concentrated, purest, and most imbued with your essence. What you're going to do is very simple. Fill the container halfway with your urine, then add several tablespoons of salt until the solution is well saturated, very salty, until you feel that no more will dissolve. While preparing this mixture, it's very important that you do so in a state of, for inner peace. Find a moment when you are alone, in silence, without distractions. Don't play loud music. Don't have the television on. Don't be thinking about 1,000 things at once. This is a sacred moment. It is a moment in which you are working with your own energy, with your own intention, and therefore requires your full presence, your complete awareness. You can, if you wish, light a white candle, because candlelight always raises the vibration of the space, always brings clarity, always banish the shadows, both physical and invisible. Once you have your container with the urine and salt mixture, close your eyes for a moment. Take 3 deep breaths, slowly and consciously, feeling the air enter and leave your lungs, feeling your heart beat in your chest, reconnecting with your body, your presence, your deepest self. Then, in a firm but calm voice, say something like this, in your own words, from your own heart. Heart, through this element that carries my essence, and through this salt that purifies and protects, I return to the universe all negative energy that has been sent against me. I return all envy, all curses, all intentions of harm, every word spoken to hurt me. It is not mine to carry this burden. This poison does not belong to me. I return it to its source and ask that divine justice, which sees and knows all, do what must be done. I choose peace. I choose freedom. I set myself free. Now, free from all the invisible chains that bound me to those who have wronged me. So be it. So it is. So it shall be. It doesn't have to be exactly with those words. You can use your own, you can speak to God as you conceive of Him, you can invoke the angels, and that is your belief. You can simply speak from your heart. What's important is the intention, that you truly feel you are releasing something, that you are freeing yourself from a burden. After saying these words, or whatever you choose, you will close the container tightly, and you're going to leave it in a dark place for 3 days. It could be under your bed, inside a closet, or in some corner where it won't get direct sunlight. During those 3 days, try not to think too much about the ritual. Don't keep checking the jar, just trust that the process is doing its work. On the 3rd day, you're going to take the container out and dispose of its contents in a place where water is running, ideally in the toilet, letting everything go with the water, symbolizing that all that negativity is leaving. From your life, it dissolves, it goes away forever. While you do this, you can repeat mentally or in a low voice, let go of what is not mine, let go of what harms me, let my life be clean and free of all negative influence. Afterward, wash the container well, or if you prefer, simply throw it away as well, especially if it's something cheap, like a small plastic cup or something like that. And that's it, the ritual is complete. Now, after doing this, the most important thing comes next, and it's something many people forget. You also have to change your internal energy. You have to work on your own emotional healing process. The ritual is a tool, a support, a way to mark a before and after, but it's not a magic solution that will instantly erase years of pain, years of resentment, years of accumulated wounds. What the ritual does is open a door, create a crack in that wall of bitterness you've built around your heart. But it's you who has to walk through that crack door. It's up to you to do the inner work necessary to truly free yourself. And that inner work involves several things. First, it involves consciously acknowledging that you've been hurt, that you have the right to feel what you feel, that your pain is valid, and that you don't have to minimize or deny it. Many people, especially in your generation, were raised with the idea that you have to be strong, that you have to endure everything without complaining, that showing pain is showing weakness. And that's a lie. It's terrible. It's caused a lot of harm. Because denied emotions don't disappear. They simply bury themselves in the subconscious, and from there continue to wreak havoc, manifesting as physical illnesses, insomnia, anxiety, and depression. So the first step is to allow yourself to feel. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to write a letter to that person who hurt you, a letter you'll never send, but that allows you to say everything you've been holding back. Write it. If you need to talk to someone you trust, a friend, a family member, a spiritual advisor. Don't carry that weight alone, because a shared burden becomes lighter. And sometimes, simply putting our feelings into words is healing in itself. The second step is understanding, and this is more difficult but incredibly liberating, that the person who hurt you likely acted from their own pain, their own inner darkness, their own unhealed wounds. This doesn't justify what she did, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean you have to forgive her immediately or have any contact with her if you don't want to, but it does help you see the situation from a broader, more mature, wiser perspective. Hurt people hurt others. People who haven't received love don't know how to give it. People who live in darkness try to extinguish the light in others. When you understand this, something changes inside you. You no longer see that person as an all-powerful monster in control about your happiness, but as a deeply confused, deeply lost, deeply unhappy human being, someone who deserves more compassion than hate. And mind you, compassion doesn't mean justifying or permitting abuse. Compassion means understanding that we are all imperfect beings, we all make mistakes, we have all caused harm at some point, even if unintentionally. And we all deserve the opportunity to heal and grow, even if not, everyone takes advantage of it. The third step, and perhaps the most important thing of all, is to consciously work on recovering your own inner light, on rebuilding your own joy, on reconnecting with all that is good in your life. Because look, one of the saddest things I've seen in people who have been deeply hurt is how the pain becomes their identity, how the story of the betrayal becomes the center of their life, how little by little they stop seeing everything else that exists beyond that wound. And I understand that when the pain is immense, when injustice is so blatant, it can seem impossible to think of anything else. But that's precisely where the enemy's power over you lies. That's where he has you trapped. As long as your mind and heart are completely occupied by resentment, by anger, by the desire for that person to get what they deserve, there is no room for joy, no room for gratitude. There is no room for love, no room for God. And when I say God, I don't necessarily mean by a specific religious image. I mean that loving presence that is always there in the deepest part of your being, waiting for you to quiet down, to find serenity, to let go of all the external and internal noise so that you can hear its gentle voice, its wise guidance, its infinite comfort. That presence cannot enter a heart that is completely closed by bitterness. It cannot work in a soul that is completely preoccupied with nurturing hatred. That is why true work, spiritually, the true path to healing involves making inner space. And making inner space means letting go, allowing the river of life to flow instead of trying to stop it with your hands full of stones of resentment. Every time you catch yourself obsessing over who hurt you, every time you realize you're mentally replaying the same story over and over, consciously stop and redirect your attention to something that brings you peace. Peace towards something that brings you joy, even if only momentary. It can be something as simple as looking out the window and watching a tree sway in the wind. It can be placing your hand on your heart and feeling your own heartbeat. It can be remembering a beautiful moment from your past, a moment when you were happy, when you felt loved, when you experienced the goodness of life, little by little, with patience, with perseverance, with self-love. You train your mind to stop being a slave to the painful past and begin to open yourself to the present, which is the only moment in which you can truly experience peace. And speaking of peace, I want you to understand something fundamental. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is not that everything in your life is perfect. Peace does not depend on the person who hurt you acknowledging their mistake or asking for forgiveness. True peace, deep peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding, as the scriptures say, is an inner state that you can cultivate regardless of what is happening on the outside. It is the ability to be at peace with yourself, even when circumstances are less than ideal. It is the ability to trust that there is a greater order at work in the universe, even when everything seems chaotic. It is the ability to let go of control and allow life to surprise you with solutions your limited mind could never have imagined. This peace is what all spiritual traditions point to as the true treasure, as that which makes life worth living, as the natural state of the soul when it is not disturbed by the ego and its endless demands. And believe me when I tell you that this peace is possible for you, it is attainable for you. It is waiting for you right now, not in some distant future when you finally manage to solve all your problems, or when you finally obtain justice, or when that person finally pays for what they did. It is here now, deep within your being, beneath all the layers of pain, fear, and resentment. But to access that peace, you need to do something which goes completely against what this competitive and violent society has taught you. You need to surrender. And surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean resigning yourself to being a victim. It doesn't mean allowing them to continue hurting you. Surrendering means ceasing to fight against what has already happened. It means accepting that you cannot change the past, no matter how much you wish it. It means letting go of the illusion of control over things that never were and never will be under your control. It means recognizing your own humanity, your own vulnerability, your own need for help, your own need for grace. And when you surrender in this deep spiritual sense, when you finally let go and say, I can't do this alone. I need help. I need something bigger than me to take over. Something miraculous begins to happen. You start noticing synchronicities. You start receiving help from unexpected places. You start seeing things fall into place in ways you couldn't have planned. You begin to experience a lightness you haven't felt in years. You didn't feel it. And the most interesting thing is that many times the justice you so desperately wanted ends up arriving, but in ways you never imagined. And by that point, it doesn't matter so much anymore because you've recovered something much more valuable. Your own inner integrity, your own happiness, your own capacity to love and be loved. I've seen this happen time and again in the people I've walked spiritually with over the years. I particularly remember an elderly man, a gentleman over 80 years old, who he came to talk to me completely consumed by hatred for his son, who had abandoned him in a nursing home without ever visiting him, calling him, or even asking how he was. This man couldn't talk about anything else. Every conversation, every meeting always ended on the same topic: his son's abandonment, the ingratitude, the injustice of having dedicated his entire life to giving him the best and receiving in return the cruelest neglect. I suggested we do some emotional release work together, something similar to the ritual I mentioned, but adapted to his particular situation. And at first he resisted because he said his son didn't deserve to be forgiven, that what he had done was unforgivable, that he had a right to be angry, and he was right about all of that. But what he didn't see was the price he was paying for clinging to that justified anger. He was wasting the last years of his life. He was letting opportunities to connect with other people who were there for him slip by. He was rejecting the possibility of experiencing peace before dying. Finally, after many conversations, he agreed to try it. And what happened was beautiful and painful at the same time. During the process of performing his own ritual of release, of writing a letter to his son telling him everything he felt, and then symbolically burning it, of working with his breath and with guided meditation exercises, this man began to cry as he hadn't cried for decades. He cried for all the frustrated expectations, for all the broken dreams, all the unrequited love, all the words left unsaid. And after that deep cry, after that necessary catharsis, something changed in him. His face softened, his gaze became clearer, his voice lost that bitter tone it always had. It wasn't that he suddenly forgave his son completely and forgot everything. It wasn't that the abandonment stopped hurting, but he did manage to let go of the need for his son to acknowledge his mistake as a condition for him to be there. Good. He managed to separate his own inner peace from his son's actions.